I went to the hospital for a checkup, and guess what? The doctor was my ex-girlfriend. When her cold fingers touched my lower abdomen, I felt my face heat up, and my mind went all over the place. After the checkup, she calmly said, "Richard, is this how you take care of yourself?" I was pulling an all-nighter working on product materials when a sharp pain hit my lower left abdomen. Thinking back, it seemed like this had been happening for about a month, so I quickly booked an appointment with a hospital specialist. When the machine called my number, I eagerly rushed into the consultation room. The moment I walked in, I froze. Fiona was sitting in front of the computer, focused on the scans, occasionally explaining things to the 7 or 8 stylish intern doctors around her. I racked my brain to remember the name of the doctor I booked. It definitely wasn't Fiona. This hospital is the best in town, and Fiona, despite being so young, has already become a top surgeon. Booking an appointment with her is nearly impossible. Of course, I wouldn't book an appointment with her anyway, because Fiona is my ex-girlfriend. The doctor I originally booked, wearing black-rimmed glasses and looking around 30, saw me and cheerfully said, "Today's your lucky day. The director is here to check the scans. Tell us, where does it hurt?" Fiona twisted her neck, looked up at me, her eyes still shining like stars, said through her mask in that clear voice of hers, "Richard, right? Where does it hurt?" Seeing her again, I nearly got lost in her doe like innocent eyes. I was stunned for 3 seconds, but quickly pulled myself out of her fog. "It's my lower left abdomen. A bit uncomfortable. It's really awkward." She skillfully filled out my medical record and asked methodically, "Does it hurt?" "Yes." "How long has this been going on?" "About a month. You should give him a physical exam," she told the doctor next to her, then turned back to the computer screen. It was like I was just another patient to her. I lay on the sickbed, letting the male doctor lower my pants to my abdomen and press around. He felt around for a while, frowning the whole time, and I instantly felt a chill in my heart. When you see a doctor frown, it's enough to scare you stiff. He turned to Fiona and said, "Fiona, you take a look." I immediately pulled up my pants. Oh great, they're calling Fiona in to look. Do I have some incurable disease? Fiona heard and walked over, with that group of interns trailing behind her. A whole bunch of people? Really? Sure. I love looking at pretty girls, but I don't like being watched by them. Fiona strutted over on her long legs, coolly glanced back at the crowd, then swiftly drew the curtain closed. "Thank God. Lower your pants." Her voice was low, eyes downcast, not looking at me. "Whatever, doesn't matter, my life is more important." I quickly lowered my pants a bit. "Not enough." She frowned slightly, speaking coldly. I reluctantly pulled them down further, her frown deepening. "Richard, I remember you not being this shy before." Damn competitive spirit. I gathered my resolve and pulled them down to the edge of my underwear. "Enough." She quickly stopped me. "See? Not enough, a bit more and you'd freak out." I looked down. Damn. I was wearing the underwear she gave me for my birthday. Fiona and I were together for 3 years without ever having anything actually happen. Not even many kisses. For the first 2 years she didn't want to, and the last year I didn't want to. My birthday last year, only 3 months ago really, she bought a black lace set and specially gave me a pair of men's underwear. After my shower, I came back to the room. Not long after, she opened the door, showing a little fluffy head, like a confused little bunny. I had never seen this side of Fiona. She was always aloof, cool, as if nothing could make her genuinely laugh. So I didn't refuse and let her in. Seeing what she was wearing, I immediately regretted it. But she was in my bed in a flash. I got a bit mad, then quickly and efficiently wrapped my coat around her and carried her to her room, leaving with one sentence, "Aren't you ashamed, Fiona?" Not only that, but she eventually suspected I had some unmentionable issue and tried several times to drag me to a men's clinic. Of course, she didn't succeed. Later, she ridiculously bought some unknown drug online and put it in my coffee. I noticed something was off right after drinking it. I found her on the couch, playing with our cat. She was in shorts, her long legs bent. I turned my gaze to avoid the discomfort in my abdomen. I sternly asked, "Fiona, what did you put in my coffee?" She was guilty but pretended to act normal. petting the cat, which sprawled out comfortably. She said casually, "Nothing really, just more sugar than usual. You work so hard. Just thought I'd make it a bit sweeter." Then she gave me an innocent smile, one of those that would make me fall for her all over again. I admit, at that moment I didn't want to hold back anymore. I put down the cup, scooped her up in my arms, and placed her on the bed. The restlessness inside, those doe-like eyes, looking so wet and full at me, and her lips stained a light red, just added to her allure, her softness against my chest rising and falling. That raw urge was nearly impossible to resist. I stared at her for a long while before speaking. "Fiona, you've gone too far." The moment lingered for 3 minutes before I got up, straightened my clothes, and left. But a girl's body is so precious. If she didn't love me, why suddenly act this way? Was it pity? I don't know if she threw away the drug and the cat got into it. Several nights in a row, the cat howled at my window. Fed up, I turned the cat into a eunuch. The cool touch on my abdomen snapped me back, my face and ears burning hot. Her fingers prodded around my lower abdomen, occasionally pressing down harder, as she softly asked, "Tell me if it hurts." I nodded, pretending to be calm, but I was so tense my nails were digging into my palms, hurting like crazy. When she felt that lump, she paused for a few seconds before pulling her hand away. She took a shallow breath and frowned at me. "Richard, is this how you take care of yourself?" I pressed my lips together, hesitating. "How long do I have?" Standing beside me, her brow never relaxed as she spoke in a steady voice. "Go get a biopsy. I'll go with you right now. If something makes Fiona frown, it can't be good." I started thinking about making a will, considering who I'd leave my cat with since my mom doesn't really like her. Fiona walked briskly ahead of me. She's pretty thin, and when she walks, it's like the wind. Even in a lab coat, she's noticeable in any crowd. The scene made me a bit sad, reminding me of how hard I tried to win her over in college. Fiona was the school's unattainable star. They say she was a standout talent, publishing a groundbreaking paper at just 18 and getting picked for college even before taking her exams. Fiona was an unyielding ice queen since she joined college, with admirers flocking like bees to honey. But she turned them all away, and rumors spread that Fiona didn't like guys. When did I start liking Fiona? Maybe it was seeing her talking confidently at a podium, hitting my heart with that cold yet self-assured demeanor. Or maybe it was the sight of her in a long white dress, with a face that was aggressively captivating. Eventually, I figured it was when she stood at my classroom door and asked, "Who's Richard?" and coolly pointed out my mistake. "Your pharmacology notes, page 10, the local anesthetic mechanism diagram is wrong." Honestly, I wasn't as famous as Fiona, but I was one of the top students in my field. That night, I boldly announced on the school forum, "Richard is going to win Fiona over." The forum blew up that night. "Good luck. You're brave. We'll watch. If you win her over, I'll sing live on stream." One summer night, under a sky full of stars, I stopped Fiona after anatomy class. Looking into her cool eyes, I said, "Fiona, I want to date you." She frowned a bit, giving me a cold look, and simply said, "Don't block my way." That's pretty much what I expected, but I didn't give up. I was confident in my looks and believed my efforts would pay off. So, people often saw me following Fiona tirelessly. From spring to summer, and then winter came, I shamelessly sat with Fiona at meals. She'd frown a little, but strangely, never told me to leave. For her speeches, I'd get a first-row seat and cheer loudly as she spoke. When her eyes met mine, even for a second, it made my night. I'd bring her homemade tea when it was hot, a coat when it was cold, medicine when she was sick. I used every how to get the girl trick from the forum. Even when she'd say coldly, "I don't drink this," or "I don't need that," I kept at it. I annoyed even myself, but at least Fiona never removed me from her life. She'd say things like, "Richard, stop wasting your time on me," or "Your homemade tea isn't good. Don't send it." "Richard, focus on your studies." And "Richard, I don't like you." I thought if I just kept going, maybe one day the fact that she'd actually talked to me would be considered a small victory. Young love is like a roaring wave, full of bravery and stubbornness. Fiona's clear voice snapped me back to reality. This will hurt a bit. Bear with it. As that needle penetrated my skin, her brows furrowed deeply. Rush the results for me, please, she told the doctor doing my biopsy. Once outside, she had her hands in her pockets. Head home. I'll let you know when the results are in. And don't do any strenuous exercise. Also, avoid any sexual activity. I thanked her out of politeness. She turned away with a soft, "No need. It's just part of the job," and walked away. See, breaking up was probably the right call. Fiona never really liked me, just like she told me 5 years ago. Still tough, even though I was the one who ended things. About a year ago, she said she had to travel for work but went to a hotel instead. She forgot to delete a text I saw before she left. It read, "Come to the hotel." When I saw it, my heart sank and it got hard to breathe. I followed her to the hotel, where she stayed the whole night and came out the next morning with a sharp-looking man. My heart clenched and it felt like my throat was blocked. My fingertips were bleeding from being dug into too hard. I couldn't confront her and hid behind the hotel's wall with a mask on. After they left, I hailed a cab back home. I bought 2 soy milks and some fried dough sticks. Then I called her, "Are you back yet? I'm waiting to have breakfast with you." She replied casually, "You go ahead and eat. I'm on my way. I'll be there in half an hour." Fiona, who never missed a detail, failed to delete that text. Maybe she truly didn't care about me at all, so there was nothing to hide. That afternoon, when Fiona opened our door, I was hanging clothes on the balcony. She came over, pulled out a small box from her bag. Her long fingers opened the velvet-lined case, revealing a watch I'd wanted for ages. The silver band sparkled like her eyes. I remembered our shopping trip when she smiled, asking me to try it. I thought it was too pricey and didn't buy it. Fiona's eyes were unusually soft, unlike before when there was always distance in her gaze. She said, "It's for you, Richard." Over those 3 years together, Fiona often gave me gifts too. She never did it in person, just mailed them, then simply notified me, "Richard, your package is here, go pick it up." The stuff I got was all the latest styles of the season, and coincidentally, they were all my favorites too. I held the limited edition sneakers, pulled her into a hug, and touched my forehead to hers. "Thanks, my sweetheart." Fiona didn't look at me. She just loosely wrapped her arms around my waist, her lips barely moving as she said, "The customer service picked them. Glad you like them." I whispered in her ear, "Since it's a gift from you, I'm happy." But deep down, only I knew the bitterness I felt. Her fingers paused for a second before she spoke softly. "All right, I've got stuff to handle. You should get some sleep first." Then she turned back to her keyboard, typing away. This time, she picked out the gift for me and personally delivered it. I should have been happy, but why does my heart feel like it's being pricked with needles? Fiona spent a night out with another guy, and suddenly her behavior changed. Was she feeling guilty? I tossed and turned all night, scrolling through tons of posts, and came to this conclusion. If you keep being too devoted, you'll end up with nothing, so it's best to cut your losses. But in the end, I couldn't let go. Seeing her smile every day was both painful and joyful. But then, in the days following, she unexpectedly wanted to get closer to me. She'd always been cold, and we rarely kissed. She said she wasn't naturally into kissing. Now she actively slipped into my bed. But I didn't want it anymore. So 3 months ago, on a typical evening, I made a decision. I texted Fiona in the next room. "Fiona, let's break up." Surprisingly, she replied instantly with a message that felt irrelevant. "We'll talk tomorrow. Get some sleep first." Fiona truly doesn't love me. She's so indifferent, even about breaking up. I spent most of the night crying under the covers to sad songs, checking the time, 2 hours before I had to get up. Rushed to grab some ice from the kitchen. I didn't want to go to work with eyes swollen like steamed buns. I majored in pharmacy and now work in drug development for a pharmaceutical company. Unlike Fiona, I got into college through sheer hard work. No natural talent, just 100% effort from me. Despite her young age, Fiona's already got the top position as head of internal medicine at the best hospital in our city. I'm somewhat recognized in my field too, but not as much as she is. After icing my eyes, I went back to my room to nap for an hour. When I got up, Fiona was leaning against the door waiting for me. That day she wore a gray trench coat, fixed her eyes on me, and with a slightly hoarse voice said, "Hurry up, you're gonna be late." All right, why have I been with Fiona for so long? Because she never slacks on doing what a girlfriend should. Whenever I got home late from work, there was always a steaming hot bowl of noodles ready on the table. She always gave me a hug when I got home, though her expression was always so neutral. Every time I thought she didn't care, her actions made me question that. She would accurately remember my birthday, which sometimes even I forgot. Last year on my birthday, as soon as I got home, a bunch of my old friends popped out to surprise me with confetti, celebrating my birthday. That's when I remembered it was actually my birthday. Since I'd been so caught up in work, we hadn't seen each other in ages. Surprised, I asked her, "How did you even get in touch with them?" She took a sip of her coffee, and with a rare playful smile, said, "Guess?" But I just felt like there was a distance between us, as if we weren't as intimately connected as other couples. Her car was parked outside my office. After a long silence, she asked quietly, "Richard, why do you want to break up?" I stood in front of the car, stunned before quickly composing myself, taking a deep breath, and casually replying, "Fiona, I don't like you anymore. Is that okay?" She was silent, and the only sound was the whooshing of the wind. After a long pause, her somewhat hoarse voice said, "Take care of yourself." She looked up at me, her eyes cloudy with emotions. "Yeah." I turned and headed upstairs. 3 days later, Fiona moved out of my place swiftly. Looking at the room she used to stay in, I gritted my teeth, holding back tears from falling so quickly. Yet the pain inside felt like needle pricks. I don't know why, but after I graduated and started working, Fiona moved in with me without ever mentioning her family. She never invited me to meet her parents. After she graduated, while I was still in school, she'd often wait for me under the big tree at the campus gate to pick me up after class. She'd even bring a lunchbox to wait for me. Back then, I somehow became the envy of every guy at school for successfully capturing the cold, highbrow beauty. She even cooked for me herself. Whenever I tried to ask about her family, she'd deliberately change the subject. I suspected she might be one of those girls with a rough upbringing who turned her life around with her incredible smarts. If she didn't want to talk, then I wouldn't push it. It's fine. We're just regular people, and as long as we work hard, life won't be bad. Besides, she seemed to be doing well for herself. After breaking up, I was down for a while. My buddy Mike said with a pained expression, "Richard, you managed to win over that icy highbrow beauty, so why let go now of all times? TSK. Think about the struggles you went through to get Fiona. But when it's time to enjoy the rewards, you just up and toss the whole thing out." I finished off the half bottle of beer I was holding, responding in a low voice, "A highbrow beauty is still a highbrow beauty. Even if I've picked her, she doesn't belong to me. Maybe only the high-hanging moon is worthy of her." I never told Mike the real reason we broke up. That night, I logged into a long-forgotten forum. The year Fiona said yes to Richard, the forum blew up with excitement. For 2 years, I stuck close to Fiona while she remained lukewarm. I always thought there was no hope, especially since she was about to leave, with the hospital director personally coming to recruit her. That day, the golden-orange sunset filled the sky, and I couldn't find her in the study room. I intended to say goodbye. Maybe, to Fiona, it didn't matter whether we said goodbye or not. Just as I was about to leave the study room, Fiona appeared in the back row. The setting sun cast a golden glow over her, her white dress almost blinding me for a moment. She spoke softly, her voice clear and bright. "Richard, come here." I walked towards her, feeling like my heart might burst out of my chest, eager to run into her arms. When I got in front of her, Fiona suddenly rose on her tiptoes and wrapped her arms around my neck, giving me a tender and sweet kiss that melted straight to my core. Only the chill on my nose brought a little sense back to me. My limbs felt like they were filled with lead, unable to move, while heat waves surged through me, leaving my cheeks and ears burning hot. Her fingers gently played through my hair, cool and soothing. She took out her phone, snapped a picture, and then let me go. Richard, make me one of your homemade milk teas tomorrow, she said, leaning lazily against the desk, her eyes like the deep sea of stars, making it easy to get lost in them. I stammered with excitement, quickly agreeing, of course, of course. I knew from then on that the star high above was rooted in my heart. That evening, the photo appeared on Fiona's social media. In less than 2 minutes, my account blew up, and the photo hit the top of the college trending list. I still remember the top comment. The untouchable flower has finally been picked. Well, tonight I'll be doing a live stream, singing my heart out, and hoping for some rockets. Congratulations, the man of pharmacology has finally melted the iceberg. Scrolling through my phone, I stopped at Fiona's profile. The photo was still pinned at the top. That kiss in the sunset, beautiful and fleeting, like our feelings. Maybe at that time, Fiona was only moved by my 2-year persistence. After we broke up, Fiona did look for me. She leaned against the hallway, a cigarette tip glowing, her voice a bit hoarse as she looked up through the smoke. Richard, is it really over? I was surprised to see her smoking. I remembered she didn't smoke, and I ignored her question. She asked again, Richard, are you really leaving? Gripping my bag tightly, I had to be firm now. I looked into her eyes and said, yeah. I thought she might say something else, even ask why, but she turned and left without a word, her back carefree as ever. 2 weeks ago, while sorting through things at home, I found a file Fiona had left, a real estate purchase contract, with Sam as the buyer. I looked at the receipt, and under payer it clearly had Fiona's name on it. I was dumbfounded. Fiona bought a house for that guy, paid in full, and her boyfriend for 3 years, knew nothing about her family situation. Is it their house? Are they planning to live together? My mind was tangled like a web, impossible to unravel. I decided to return it to her at the hospital. Honestly, I still wanted to hear her explanation, even though I knew it might just set me up for more heartache. Without scheduling, I went straight to her office. Walking in, there was a young guy next to Fiona. They seemed to be chatting. He looked about 20, with sharp features and an aura of youth long lost to a man of 30 like myself. I called out coldly, Fiona, you forgot something. Hearing this, they both turned to look at me. Seeing the guy's face was like a punch to my gut. Wasn't that the guy who left the hotel with her last time? Fiona's eyes flickered with a flash of light on seeing me, but it quickly dimmed as she said indifferently, what are you doing here? Fiona, so this is who you are. I tossed the papers on her desk. The guy looked stunned, confused and scared, standing awkwardly. Fiona frowned. Richard, what are you talking about? I don't understand. Feigning ignorance, I accused, you even brought him to the hospital. Fiona sighed, he's my brother. Oh, of course, a brother with a different last name, a brother who spends nights in hotels with you. Listening to her ridiculous explanation, I exhaled deeply. I didn't want to argue about this embarrassing thing in the hospital. Still lacked the courage to hear her say it directly. So I turned and left the office. As they say, bad luck never comes alone. Just outside, I ran into an irate family member causing trouble. There were arguments as soon as I stepped out, typical in a hospital, I thought. Suddenly, a man emerged from the crowd waving a fruit knife, with 2 security guards chasing him. Realizing the danger too late, the man charged at me with the knife. I lifted my bag to block, tripped over something, and fell hard onto a steel chair. The madman swung his knife down, and just when I thought it was the end, Fiona appeared. Blocking him with a chair, she swung at him fiercely. The knife fell alongside the chair, and the lunatic was subdued. Somehow, my wrist got nicked, bleeding steadily with the bag I used for defense slashed. Back in the office, Fiona's expression was tight, anger simmering as she tended to my wound with trembling hands. The guy seemed out of place in such a scene. Though he helped fight off the man earlier, he was clearly still rattled. Fiona looked at me, still angry, but tried to keep her voice subdued. Didn't I tell you not to come to the hospital? Luckily, today you're okay. I was feeling really stuck and didn't respond to her. I just thanked her coldly and got up to leave. She put out her hand to stop me, firmly saying, I'm taking you home. Fiona came over every day for the next few days before I went to work to change my bandages until I was completely healed. She always reminded me before I left, "Don't come to the hospital looking for me. Just call if you need anything." I won't go. I won't go again. No need to feel awkward seeing the two of them together. I didn't directly ask her about the house. I didn't want to hear the painful truth again. It's already been proven. Why humiliate myself further? As adults, a breakup should be dignified. Caught up in emotion, I asked Mike to grab some drinks with me. Mike is my buddy and a college friend. He's witnessed the 3 years Fiona and I spent together. I said I might die young, and he widened his eyes, almost twisting his eyebrows, filled with disbelief. "Richard, don't joke about that." I didn't want to tell him I might be sick. So, I started drowning my sorrows with drink, one strong drink after another. If I'm really sick, let me be reckless one last time. Ever since I started dating Fiona, I rarely drank. That year, during a company party, I accidentally drank too much. Fiona called me many times and couldn't get through. Eventually, a colleague answered the call for me. They said Fiona reached the private room less than 15 minutes after the call. Our party place was quite far from home, about half an hour's drive. The next day at home, Fiona gave me the cold shoulder all day, but still she took care of me the whole time. When I was finally able to chat normally, she said with a serious face, "Richard, don't drink so much again. I don't like it." She didn't like it, so I stopped. Thinking about these things just made me sadder. Halfway through drinking, I vaguely saw Fiona standing there with a stern look on her face. Muttering to Mike, I said, "Look at me. I'm really obsessed, starting to see things. How could Fiona be here?" I opened another beer coolly, but just as I was about to lift it, someone grabbed my wrist tight. Looking up, it was Fiona. I shook my head and looked again. It was really her. Turning to Mike, who stood awkwardly, signaling he was leaving, I yelled, "Mike, you traitor." Finished acting out? Fiona's intense voice rang in my ears as I slumped over the table, not responding. She sat across from me, eyes full of restrained anger, and said softly, "Richard, do you have a death wish? You're sick, and you're daring to drink?" Hearing her scold me, my frustration swelled with the help of alcohol, filling my chest. I let it all out thanks to the booze. Seeing my tears, Fiona looked panicked, reaching out to wipe them, which I slapped away. In 3 years with Fiona, I never cried in front of her. I grumbled, "Fiona, why do you care? We're broken up. You have no right to." My tears and snot ran unbidden. Fiona looked shocked, quickly grabbing a tissue to clean it, speaking with a hint of scolding. "You're the one who said break up. I never agreed, plus I'm your doctor. Of course I have a reason to care." Hearing this, I felt both sad and happy. Did Fiona not want to break up with me? Even so, I couldn't face her yet. Feeling dizzy, I flopped onto the couch. When I woke, there was a coat on me, and Fiona was struggling to help me out of the bar. On the chilly autumn night, I shivered in the wind. I straightened, pulling her close, feeling like I couldn't let go. The alcohol gave me the illusion we were still together. Suddenly thinking about her spending the night in a hotel with someone, my anger skyrocketed. I said, "Fiona, just leave. I don't want you to care." Her cold eyes trembled slightly, then softened. "Come on, let me take you home." Honestly, Fiona hardly ever spoke to me like this before. If I got mad, she'd say something like, "Richard, stop it." To go home, I'd say she had to carry me. Mumbling, I guess I was rebelling after holding it in too long. She squeezed her hold on me tighter. "Fine, you can hold on." I was pretty surprised she wasn't angry. I scooped her up, staggering on purpose as I walked. She clung to my neck, scared. The bar was about a mile or so from home, her faint scent wafting through the air. I asked, "Fiona, am I dying?" "Don't say that," she replied softly. I started hinting around, "Fiona, if I die, you can be with the one you love." She didn't say anything for a long time. My eyelids felt heavy, so I didn't wait for her answer, speeding up to get us home. The next day when I woke, there was porridge and a note on the side that said, "After you eat, let me know." I'll come get you for your treatment. Those last words left me in a funk. I didn't want to tell my parents. It would just worry them. But for a hospital stay, I needed family, right? My niece, who always asked for dating advice, popped into my head. I didn't want to burden Fiona more, so I called her over. 15 minutes later, she was at my door, looking all vibrant. I frowned slightly. Clara, isn't that too trendy? Used to the question, she pounded her chest confidently. Big bro, what do you need me for? Just come with me for a checkup and don't tell the folks. Okay? I reminded her not to blab to mom and dad. As soon as we got to the hospital, there was Fiona, rushing out. She glanced at Clara behind me, her expression complex. You were supposed to notify me. I rubbed my hands together and said, don't want to trouble you. She suddenly took my hand gently. Girlfriends are meant to be troubled. Then she glanced coldly at Clara behind me. That's true, you shouldn't trouble others. I pulled my hand back and replied, we've already broken up. She grabbed my hand again and walked on. You saying it alone doesn't make it true. Next thing I knew, she was running around getting me admitted into the hospital, and Clara was pretty reliable too, taking care of the errands. When I was paying at the window, the lady there typed away quickly, saying to Fiona beside me, Fiona, your boyfriend's got a solid girlfriend. She's been so busy with everything. You can leave it to her, no need to help personally. Fiona frowned slightly, the anger in her eyes clear even with a mask on. I could imagine her face. Swipe the card. Fiona held my hand, took out a card, and handed it to the lady with a tinge of irritation. Richard is my boyfriend. The lady turned awkward, not knowing what to say, awkwardly accepting Fiona's card with a smile. I'll transfer the money to you later, I told Fiona as she walked ahead. She suddenly stopped, sighed deeply, and turned to me. Richard, are you out of your mind? In the hospital room, Fiona was eager to do everything. She laid out a new bedding set for me, then looked around and sent Clara to buy toiletries. Watching Fiona busily moving around, I tentatively asked, Fiona, what's wrong with me? Tell me the truth, I can handle it. Her fingers paused on the white sheets. Then she turned to me, holding my shoulders gently. It's nothing, just a small cyst. A few minutes and it's done. The surgery was set for 2 days later, with Fiona conducting it. In those 2 days, her usual cold demeanor changed, and she seemed very concerned about me. That was unusual. She must be hiding something from me. Mike's talk about her regretting things made me skeptical. Would Fiona have regrets? I didn't think so. She didn't seem like the type. At night, she didn't come to see me. A nurse who put in my 4 said Fiona was on duty. The hospital was eerily quiet at night. I stood by the window. The light in her office was dim. Fiona was looking at a report on her computer. Her fingers massaged her forehead, and she leaned back in her chair tiredly. On the report, I saw my name, Richard. I couldn't understand the images, but the words malignant were like a knife to my heart. Even a fool knows what that means. Though I had mentally prepared, I was still thrown off balance, overwhelmed by panic. Sir, are you looking for Fiona? She's inside. A nurse's gentle voice snapped me back to harsh reality. Hearing the voice, Fiona turned around. Her eyes were shadowed. She looked so tired. When our eyes met, there was clear panic in hers. She quickly closed her laptop and came out. Why'd you come over? Her voice was soft. Fiona, stop lying. Am I dying? She covered my mouth with her warm hand. Don't say that. She pulled me into her office, closed the door, and drew the curtains. Suddenly, she hugged me tightly around the waist. After a long time, she let go, her eyes red, her voice trying to hide something. Richard, don't overthink this. I pulled at her sleeve. Fiona, if I die, you can be with whoever you want. She looked seriously into my eyes. I only love you, Richard. I said I've always only loved you. But I don't love you anymore, Fiona. In the past, if I heard her say this, I'd be thrilled. But now, I wish Fiona didn't like me at all. If I have a terminal illness, I don't want to drag her down. Then she leaned in, pressed her lips against mine, cold fingers through my hair, gently stroking. The coldness on my nose took me back to graduation day. Her eyes were full of softness. That day's illusion made me think she loved me. But in our 3 years together, she kissed me, just a peck, never this deeply. Yet my heart succumbed to her tenderness at this moment. Her heavy breathing in my ear made my heart tremble. Finally, she let me go, her gaze softer than ever. It's okay. I love you. That's enough. She never said that to me before. I figured maybe it was just to comfort me, seeing me ill. I looked at her suspiciously, tears in my eyes. I saw it. It said malignant. Do I have cancer? She ruffled my hair. You only read the last part, didn't you? It recommended further tests to consider if it's malignant. Her reassurance calmed me down a bit, but we'd know more after surgery. There was a knock at the door, and Fiona stood up. Come in. Fiona, this lady here is looking for you. An elegantly dressed woman entered, glanced at me, then smiled at Fiona. Fiona, working late still? Fiona smiled. Auntie, what brings you here so late? The woman smiled back. Oh, I was passing by the hospital. Thought I'd drop in. Did you see the picture I sent you? How do you like him? Fiona suddenly took my hand, smiling at her aunt. Auntie, this is my future husband. No need to worry about me. The woman looked at me, then back at Fiona, stunned for a moment. She warmly held my hand. Child, not feeling well? I looked over at Fiona, somewhat blaming her. Look at you. You're a doctor yourself. How come you can't take care of your husband properly? Fiona smiled a little. It's my lack of skill. Didn't take good care of him. Hi, Auntie. I'm Richard. Honestly, I've run through meeting the parents in my mind hundreds of times. Never thought it would happen like this, so suddenly, my heart's racing like crazy. She looked at me. The smile never left her face. She chatted a bit with Fiona before leaving. Before she left, she mentioned she'd visit me in the hospital in a few days. Clara got sent back by Fiona. She said Clara's clumsy, either breaking things or bringing me junk food. So, she sent her off to take care of my cat. Clara pouted, slinging her backpack over her shoulder and left the ward. I said, Fiona, why are you picking a fight with a kid? She responded coldly, she's not a kid. She's an adult woman. She's my sister. Well, not by blood. Alright, I give up. On the surgery day, I changed clothes, lay on the stretcher, and got wheeled into the operating room. The lights above were a little dazzling, and Fiona stood by my side in her blue scrubs. When she looked at me, her eyes were full of unwavering determination, like she was telling me, don't worry, I'm here. When I woke up, Fiona was sitting by my bed. She saw my eyes open and gently moved my hair out of my face, a soft smile spreading across her lips. She whispered reassuringly, it's all over now. I moved my shoulder a bit, not realizing it would pull at the wound, and I winced. Ouch. Seeing this, she quickly pressed down on my shoulder, urgently saying, don't move. Her brows that were smooth just a moment ago suddenly furrowed. Apparently, everyone in her department knows I'm Fiona's boyfriend, and during my stay, people kept visiting me with those knowing smiles. But Fiona, I look at her and see how tired she is, her dark circles almost looking black. I don't know what she's busy with. The nurses visiting told me she hasn't been home, staying in the office instead. I started worrying if the results were bad. On a calm night, Fiona came into the room with Sam. Her expression was relaxed and happy, looking well-rested compared to 2 days ago. I knew it. Fiona had been comforting me all along. See, she's brought her love interest to come clean. You don't have to say anything. I know it all. You can leave with him, Fiona. I'll just pretend it was all a dream. Lying there, I looked like I had given up on life. Fiona looked a bit confused, asking me, I don't think I ever mentioned this, did I? How do you know? My heart clenched painfully. Fiona, do you have to be this cruel? Do you really have to tear open my wound yourself? My eyes stung with unshed tears, but I knew crying now would be so undignified. Still, I couldn't help it, and a tear slipped out. I tilted my head and shouted at her. Aren't you just going to tell me you like him? That you said everything before just to comfort me? Fine, I'm okay now. You can be with him. Go on, I won't see you off. Fiona sighed. pulling Sam over to stand in front of me. Sam, this is your real brother-in-law. Help me explain. What? Real brother-in-law? I stared in disbelief at Sam in front of me. Looking closely, they really did share some resemblance. Damn. So, I've been wrapped up in a story of my own making? Sam scratched his head, a bit embarrassed, and said, Brother-in-law, I'm truly Fiona's brother, the blood-related kind. Please don't be mad at her. Looking at this vibrant young guy, I couldn't connect him with Fiona's icy demeanor. To cover up my embarrassment, I forced a laugh. It's fine, not your fault at all. Then I gave Fiona a fierce glare. She never mentioned she had a brother. Fiona sat by my bed, seriously explaining. Sam is my half-brother. My mom passed away the year I started school, and he's just started college this year. With that, she lowered her head. Sam also dropped his head, clearly hurt by the reminder of their shared sadness. After hearing this, I felt terrible for Fiona. All these years without a mom's love and care. Maybe she didn't want me to see her vulnerable side. I deliberately changed the subject and took her hand. When can I be discharged? I've been here for half a month. The wound doesn't even hurt anymore, but you won't let me leave. Fiona looked up, brushed my hair back, and smiled slightly. You can leave tomorrow. Sam grinned. Brother-in-law, Fiona really likes you. She felt so bad after you guys split. She just stayed home crying. And believe me, it was a mess. Fiona blushed, frowning slightly. Sam, I was utterly shocked. Seriously? Fiona crying? Sam covered his laugh. Brother-in-law, I've got stuff to handle at school, so I'll leave you guys to it. The next day, after Fiona handled all the paperwork, she took me to the city's most exclusive apartment complex. I asked, what's up? She said nothing and just led me to the elevator. On the 25th floor, she pulled out a key and unlocked the door to a luxurious single-level condo. Inside, it was decorated in the American vintage style I love. Roughly 500 square feet. With a serious look, she placed the key in my hand. I'm sorry, we should have had a home earlier. I hope it's not too late now. I flicked her on the forehead. I already got a place, right next door. Her eyes widened a bit. Why didn't you say so earlier? Did I just waste money? Back when we first got together, I was browsing online on a weekend. I asked Fiona, who was busy writing, what style she liked. She casually asked back, what do you like? I thought for a while and said I liked American vintage. I know she likes it too. She hit me with another bombshell. Take your household registration book tomorrow. I've already contacted your parents, and the wedding planning is done. I was so shocked I opened my mouth wide. Huh? What? You don't want to? Her beautiful eyes were filled with expectation. She walked to the entryway, took a box out from a drawer, and started reading a piece of paper. Fiona, I got first place in the exam today. How about you? The sky is so blue, yet not as deep as my love for you. I miss you a lot. Memories I thought long gone suddenly hit me. It was a love letter I wrote to Fiona. I had believed in all those 100 ways to flirt guides and had written her countless cheesy love letters. Still unwilling? Fiona continued reading. Fiona, I had a cup of milk tea. It was sweet. I think being with you would be multiple times sweeter than this cup of sweetened milk tea. Fiona, you are a dazzling flower on a high peak, but it's cold up there. I wish to always be the light warming your life. I shouted. Stop, stop, stop. Fiona, are you threatening me? She paused for 2 seconds, suddenly cornered me against the wall, tiptoed up, and her stunning face magnified in front of me as she whispered, yes, threatening you. If you don't agree, I'll help you relive your youth. Damn, youthful recklessness had no shame. Memories that are hard to look back on. No, Fiona, who let you fool me? You don't tell me anything. I don't even know where your house is, let alone your parents. I deliberately brought up past matters to argue with her. She turned away suddenly, and after a few seconds of silence, she spoke softly. When I was 7, my mom cheated and divorced my dad. They said I was a kid without a mom. Later, she got breast cancer and died when I was 23. Richard, I was just a little scared. Before meeting you, I was always alone. I want to give you a home, but I'm always afraid of being abandoned. My heart ached. The flower on the high peak had indeed been through harsh winters to grow. Her proud silhouette now seemed a bit lonely. I began to understand why she chose to be a doctor. Before, I used to mock her for it. The icy exterior was just the shield of a little girl who longed for maternal love. I stepped forward, hugged her waist, and prayed my embrace could melt some of the ice in her heart. When you said you wanted to break up, I thought you really didn't want to be with me, so I moved out to not make you unhappy. I thought, is Richard truly unhappy with me? If you wanted to go, fine, I'd let you. But your sudden illness scared me. The biopsy result wasn't good and suggested further examination. I realized I couldn't bear losing you. Thankfully, you're okay. She kept talking to herself, never looking back at me. I tightened my hold on her. Tears dripped onto the back of my hand, slowly sliding down my skin. She suddenly turned around. I know what you've always minded. Today I'll give you an answer. She tiptoed and kissed me gently and tenderly. My chest felt like a flower swaying in the wind, rocking left and right. She pushed me onto the bed, hovered over me as the scent of warm but slightly cool pine enveloped me, merging into my heart, sparking a blaze of love. I thought, Fiona completely belongs to me now. The afternoon sun filtered through the curtains, casting dappled light across the room. Fiona cupped my face. Richard, when I touch you, I lose my sense of reason, but I'm afraid of being abandoned. I gently caressed the back of her head. Sorry, it was my fault for making you feel insecure. She quickly covered my mouth. Between you and me, let's never say those 3 words. I held her close, looked at her pale neck and flushed cheeks, and asked, am I the only one? She softly whispered in my ear, her voice sultry. Only you. In the middle of the night, Fiona was still tightly holding on to me even in her sleep. When I realized why she was hesitant to get close to me, I couldn't help but chuckle. Turns out I still got some charm. Fiona needs warmth. Richard will always be her sun, shining on her forever and ever.